Once upon a time, there was an old farmer who had many children. They were all bright and hardworking, excelling in their studies. Each of them had big dreams going to college, studying abroad, and working overseas. The farmer, wanting nothing but the best for his children, decided to sell his most valuable possession, his land. Though he raised enough money for his children's future, he couldn't shake off the sadness of losing the land that had been in his family for generations. The person who bought the land had no interest in farming. Instead, he saw it as a golden opportunity to make a quick fortune. His plan was simple: divide the land into plots, build houses, and sell them for a high price. To keep people from freely wandering onto the land, he built a tall compound wall around it. Days passed, and the land that once flourished with crops now lay bare. The new owner made sure not even a single blade of grass grew there. He wanted the place to look neat and ready for potential buyers. But nature had its own plans. One day, a bird flew over the land, unknowingly dropping a tiny seed onto the dry soil. That single seed sprouted into a delicate little plant. It was the only sign of life in the otherwise lifeless land. As the plant grew, it felt lonely, much like someone who finds themselves in a place where they don't belong. It had no flowers, no friends, and no company, just a few leaves and thin branches. It began to wonder, why am I here? What is my purpose? Then, one day, something magical happened. A tiny bud appeared. The plant was confused at first. What is this? Am I changing? Is something wrong with me? But soon, the bud blossomed into a beautiful, colorful flower. For the first time, the little plant felt happy. It realized that even in loneliness, something good can bloom. But that joy didn't last long. As time passed, the flower withered, and its petals fell to the ground. The plant felt heartbroken. Was that happiness just temporary? Was I meant to be alone again? But nature wasn't done with its surprises. Soon, more buds started appearing, one after another. The plant kept growing, and its flowers kept blooming. What seemed like a lonely struggle at first was now turning into something wonderful. But the greatest miracle happened when the fallen petals gave birth to new plants. One by one, tiny sprouts began to emerge from the ground. The once isolated plant was no longer allanite, had a family. As time passed, the small patch of greenery turned into a lush, thriving mini-forest. Birds, butterflies, bees, and squirrels started coming in. Even snakes found shelter under its growing branches. The once barren land had transformed into a paradise for wildlife. And then, something unexpected happened. The landowner, still waiting for government approval to build on the land, finally managed to get officials to visit the site. But when they opened the gate, they were stunned. Instead of an empty space for buildings, they found a dense forest, filled with chirping birds, fluttering butterflies, and vibrant flowers. One of the government officers shook his head and said, "This is agricultural land. We cannot grant permission to destroy this forest. If you don't want to take care of it, hand it over to the government." The landowner was speechless. His plan had failed, but nature had won. And so, the forest remained untouched. People started nurturing it even more, realizing the beauty that had grown out of what was once just a single, lonely plant. What can we learn from this story? Loneliness is temporary. Just like the little plant, we may sometimes feel alone, but if we hold on, things will change. Every struggle leads to growth. The plant thought it had lost everything when its first flower fell, but that flower gave birth to many more. In life, our hardships often lead to something better. The right people will find you. Just like the birds, butterflies, and animals were drawn to the growing forest, true friends will come into your life when the time is right. You don't have to change yourself, just keep growing, and the right people will come. So kids, if you ever feel lonely, don't worry. Keep being yourself, keep growing, and one day you'll look around and see that you're not alone anymore.